In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are.
Welcome to Be the Wellness Podcast, where we help you master your body, mind, and the experience of life through insightful conversation, interviews with experts and thought leaders, all with a side of marital banter and some good old-fashioned humor.
Yes, we are your hosts, Adam and Vanessa Lambert, and we're committed to helping you live life fully expressed physically, mentally, and experientially. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation.
Hello and welcome, everybody, to Be the Wellness Podcast. Adam and Vanessa Lambert and Daisy.
Back in the office.
Back in the office.
Delivering premier content across the globe.
True, on all the places, Spotify included.
Yeah, all the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
We just hosted a really sweet, or I just hosted a really sweet virtual baby blessing for my bestie, Katie Bug, who's getting ready to have a baby like anytime now.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really sweet. And I'm really loving this like virtual world.
Yeah.
It's, here's the thing, because we've done so much stuff in person, right? We've like got so much energy around togetherness. And I love togetherness and I love our retreats and I love all the things. But when you cannot have that, it's pretty amazing what you can broadcast, what you can, what you can put out there energetically in the force field and really receive.
Right.
It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually works pretty good. It is fatiguing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing about this, the virtualness, which is an interesting, and this is probably actually a topic for an entirely different podcast because I have thoughts about this.
Okay.
So let's save those for a later date.
Too many thoughts.
Let's
right
not
now.
hijack this podcast with, thinking thoughts.
Well, I will just say that I think it's fatiguing sometimes when it's stuff that like is already kind of fatiguing. Mm-hmm. It definitely doesn't make it more energizing.
Doesn't make it better.
But if it's something that you're excited about and something that brings you, is bringing you some harmony or some love or some
Sparks
like
joy.
Experience, then I think it can be less taxing for sure.
Yeah.
Can even be invigorating.
Right.
Yeah. Like my Akashic readings always feel super invigorated afterwards. Like definitely a lot of healing energy gets received on those.
Yeah, there's something's going on.
Yeah, the broadcast is strong. And speaking of broadcasts,
yes,
I'll be hosting a full moon ceremony coming this Thursday. So that is, let me just check the date really quick. Thursday the 28th. We'll be doing
what?
Thursday, the 28th of January, 2021.
2021.
Yes, if you're listening to this February 24th of 2026, you missed it.
But it might be available on replay.
It might be on replay. You never know.
Google it.
Exactly. No, it's really exciting because I've been wanting to try to figure out how to bring people into this crystal world, into kind of just more of the spiritual side of things that I'm just all the way in the deep end right now.
Yeah. Full hippie. Yeah.
And it's so good. It feels so good. And I'm so excited to share it with people. And, so if you're listening to this before Thursday, the 28th, you can join me. Just click the link below and we'll deliver you the Zoom link prior to the event. But we will be talking about crystals, how to work with them. A lot of people out there crystal curious, but they don't really know, it's
like why would I have this thing? It looks cool, but like, what's the deal?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll be talking a little bit about working with them. We'll be talking about cleaning them, charging them, and also just sharing community, just sharing connection and, kind of just getting the band back together out there.
Totally. So if you're already on our mailing list and like you have received emails from us recently, and you're like fairly certain that they're not going to spam or whatever, you'll get a notification saying, hey, come check this thing out. And here's a calendar invite, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
But if you're not on our list, then click the link, throw yourself on there.
Yep.
And you will receive the invitation.
You will be cordially invited.
Cordially invited. Yeah.
So yeah, super excited about that and hope to see some of your beautiful faces. It's a free event. And if you don't have any crystals, don't worry. Don't feel like, I don't have crystals. That's not for me. We're going to be working in some kind of energetic capacity that are for just ourselves, for our,
for
sovereign
your internal crystal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't give it away. It's a secret.
Whoops.
But we'll be working with the energetics of yourself, which, in the end, all this stuff applies to us in our physical, spiritual, and then it applies to the crystals. It's just kind of like, it's just a little like spiritual 101.
Yeah. Yeah. Over the frequency waves. However Zoom gets to you, whether it's wirelessly or fiber optically.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that's weird about this stuff now, right? It's not always the same, right? Some people on fiber optic internet get it in pulses of light.
See, light
Right?
language.
I know.
That's something we'll talk about.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Conspiracy.
So yeah, really excited to host that gathering. Hopefully it's one of many more, but just, tune in and we'll tune up and we will, we'll get all the frequencies really vibing.
Yeah. So let's talk about this podcast.
Yeah. Speaking of frequencies, see, it all connects. It's all connected.
Synchronicity.
We are speaking with Nadine Artemis, who's an author, aromacologist, formulator, founder, and CEO of Living Libations. And Living Libations is a luxury line of serums, elixirs, and essential oils for those seeking the purest of the pure botanical health and beauty products on the planet. This collection of rare and exceptional organic and fair trade botanical compounds includes potent skincare and oral care serums that are beloved worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Beloved.
I was like, it seems weird they'd be beloved, but beloved makes more sense.
Yeah. And the funny thing is they're spelled the same.
They are still the same.
It's all, you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah. This is why we are a good team. She's also the author of Renegade Beauty and Holistic Dental Care. And these are excellent resources for exactly what they state. The Renegade Beauty, I mean, this is about really understanding beauty products, how these things affect our skin, what is happening to you both on the external experience of what you're applying, but also on the internal experience of what you're ingesting, what you're, applying topically. This is like literally the beauty Bible of compounds, and it's just anything you want to know about this stuff is in this book. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
And then holistic dental care, we'll talk about this a bit in the podcast, but dental care, the way that we've approached it in this, this kind of Western way, this is a whole different, it's a departure from that. It's like a actual caring for the health of your gums, for your teeth, and how you can like deeply care for them, not just take them to the dentist twice a year for a cleaning and hope flushing. It's all good. Like this is about like, how do we actually nurture and nourish the gum line? How do we protect it? It's really cool stuff.
Yeah. And it totally makes sense, frankly. It's like, good luck sterilizing your mouth. And if it can't be sterile, then maybe we should be, feeding and providing some healthy bacteria in there to do what needs to be done.
Yes. Absolutely. And just to wrap up, Nadine's a frequent commentator on health and beauty for media outlets, and her products have received rave reviews in the New York Times, GOOP, New York Magazine, Vogue, InStyle, The Hollywood Reporter, and many more. Yeah. So people are taking notice.
Yeah. Well, and you'll hear it. Like she's got it figured out. There's stuff that you are going to learn that you did not know before. For sure. About things that you thought you knew everything about.
Yes. And her products are amazing. She sent us some samples, and, I love the high quality, like really high resonance beauty stuff. And hers was definitely at that level. It was really, really beautiful stuff. And we're going to do a giveaway with her actually. So be sure to go over, check out our Instagram, get dialed in on that, because she's got some epic products.
Yeah. Faux show.
Cool. So let's do it. Here's Nadine Artemis.
And we are live. Welcome to the podcast, Nadine.
It's such a pleasure.
I was going through, you gifted us the Renegade Beauty book that is really just like such a Bible to me. It's like literally the Bible of all the things I care about live in this book. And I was just going through it again before the podcast just to kind of, vibe out with it again. And I want to know about what the impetus was for writing this book, because it's so detailed. It's so well researched. It is clearly a book written from someone's love and passion for this subject matter. So I wanted to just kind of like start the conversation with what was going on in your life that you said it's time to write this book.
Oh, well, thank you so much. One of my favorite comments, I do get the Beauty Bible a lot, which I love because I feel like that kind of makes sense. It really is like a lot packed in there, and I really wanted to give it my all. But one of my favorite comments is people call it a page turner, which obviously, it's I just find that the sweetest thing because it's a book about
health. It really
is
though. No, but it really is. It draws you in.
Oh, it's so fun. So let's see. Yeah. Well, I started with, I've done a lot really even since I've kind of first came into being, like, in my 20s as having this store and this beauty company. I right away, thankfully, somehow was doing I was invited to do talks and presentations and stuff. So I've had a lot of opportunity to present a lot of the knowledge that somehow formulated in my brain. And so I did write a book on holistic dental care back, I guess it was before 2010. And I just self-published because I just really wanted to get the information out there. I didn't really mind. And then luckily then it got actually, and people said, oh, don't self-publish because you never be published. And I was like, well, I don't really mind. It just needs to be read. And but I actually didn't feel that to be true. It may be true, but I didn't feel like that's how it was going to play out. And it didn't. It actually what do you call that? Attracted a publisher.
Attracted, yeah. I like draw work.
Because they saw it was such a successful book on its own. So, and the funny thing is you generally make a lot more self-publishing. Once you go to publishing, it's a different, I mean, of course, unless you're, writing blockbusters and stuff. Not that again, that matters. It's just an interesting transition for the book, but I was really happy for it to get published in the sense that it is, different information. And I think it just is nice that it's a published book. And now, of course, then they take care of it and it's in 5 languages. It's an audio book. So that was all really lovely. And I feel like I can get life is so full. I could just keep going and not pause to write a book. But luckily, the publisher also saw another presentation. They're like, okay, great. Now we need the beauty book. And I was that was in my flow. But we did have a fire in 2013 that obviously was just massive. And a lot of, we lost everything except for the pajamas on our backs. Wow. So we had to kind of recover from that. And that's like when I was going to be writing. So it took a moment, but I feel like, every year that it didn't happen was another year to, just gather more. But the interesting process of writing the book, because when you went through the fire, there's like a scattering of your whole life, right on the physical plane and even on the mental plane, because you can't even just go to that library with that well-marked book and you know what I mean? Like all of that's gone. So the nice thing about the book that I didn't know was going to happen as I was writing it was kind of a rejoining or like finding those lost patches of like information or like, oh, I love that Rumi quote. I'll have to find it again. I want to include it in the book. So it was kind of like a coming together of all the bits and pieces. And I really wanted to just give it my all, like every ounce of anything that I knew at that moment to just really put it in a book. And I really wanted to also, map it out, take the time to like unwind a lot of the paradigms that have been fed to us in the past, like 60, 70 years, about beauty, about taking care of our body, about hygiene, kind of, about beauty and its place in existence. And to undo a lot of stuff, we got to walk through things. We need science, we need philosophy, and we need practical information so that we can get to that other side and have that new relationship with our bodies, with beauty.
Yeah. And that's what I'd really love for you to do is kind of walk the listener through how it's laid out, because it really is what struck me about it when we got it was that there are bits of information in this book that I've heard here and there scattered about. Maybe this book touches a little bit on it, and then a different book kind of gets a little, goes into a different subject matter, and there's a little crossover. But this really is, when you say a beauty Bible, it really progresses you through sort of the whole story when it comes to beauty, when it comes to radiance, when it comes to health. And so I'd love if you could just almost walk the listener through how it's set up, because I want to give them the understanding of how complete it is and sort of how it really takes you through the whole story of what it means to be a radiant, beautiful being.
Yeah, like the book kind of is this journey from, the macro, the micro, weaving it in and out. So we go from the micro, tiny, like trillions of bacteria that are on our skin, and connect it to meteorites in the cosmos, because we are stardust, literally. And our microbe is made up of some bacteria that did land on the earth from meteorites. So there's this big cosmic picture that we want to know where we are and how we relate to that. Because at the end of the day, beauty is it's not something that can be applied to you. It's not another jar of cream, no matter how natural it is or how synthetic it is. It's just not the answer. So we want to understand our relationship to all of this, and really what does revive us? What will make that exhausted mother, what will revise her spirit, other than a great hot bath or something, right? And so I feel like we want to know, and we want to remember, and we want to understand the interconnectedness of our beings with the elements, with the world around us, with sun, with water, air, and earth, like from standing on the earth to the beautiful, the beautiful gifts that from all the botanicals that we can put on our skin.
I love that. Yeah, it really is kind of an interesting step back into nature in a way, but not asking, the reader to go backwards, but to more integrate some of this ancient wisdom and knowledge as you move forward. And it's just really lovely to see all of the tonics, all of the essential oils that you recommend for different things. Just, it really is a Bible of sorts. Actually, I would say it's almost like an encyclopedia, to be fair, because it really, you can kind of look up anything that you might be thinking about or wondering about, and there's some kind of solution, or at least some kind of story around how to look at that particular thing. And I just find it really, really complete and amazing.
The great thing is a lot of the book too is also shaped by, the thousands of questions we get every year by, so it's really, I really understand, what's going on with a lot of skin and a lot of beauty issues at this time.
So I feel like I have a personal question, and I just want to use this opportunity to ask you. And I know this is something that so many women deal with. So it's a great opportunity to maybe dive into a specific instance and kind of get your take on it. So what about hyperpigmentation? What can you tell us about how we get it, how to treat it, how to avoid it, all that good stuff?
Yeah, that's a big issue right now. Like it's experienced, quite worldwide. And a lot of that has to do with diet and what we're consuming that way. A lot of people feel like it's the sun, but it's actually not. It's mainly to do with the diets that we're eating. So it has a lot to do with hormones and synthetic hormones like birth control pills, and the rancid fatty acids that we're eating, the polyunsaturated fatty acids like mazola, canola, etc.
Yeah.
And so, I'd love to, this is great. I want to dive deeper into this because I never had a problem with it. I was on birth control for a very short period of time in my early 20s. And of course that set it off. And then I've kind of been in this little thing with it for most of my life since. And what I've noticed is that people like to say it's a sun issue specifically, but I find that it can be a heat issue too. Like literally just sometimes being in a hotter climate. It doesn't even have to necessarily do with sun exposure, but actually just a hotter temperature that can activate those melanocytes and kind of kick it up. So I'm curious if you've noticed that correlation or have anything to say about that.
I haven't seen that as much as a correlation as really what's going on internally with the body. So there can be hormonal shifts with pregnancy that can make it appear. But the great thing is, no matter the root, is that there are solutions. And I do find that essential oils, it's generally effective for like 90% of the people that are working with them. So we've made the doodads and the soothsayer serum specifically for the melasma and the hyperpigmentation.
And is that, can you just speak to like what it's actually working at, what level it's working at?
Yeah. Well,
like,
the top layer of the skin is very thin. It's like, just like kind of like the edge of a credit card. And in that layer are 5 layers. The stratum corneum is the top layer. And then there is the melanocyte layer. And so it just works on the cellular level, it helps to renew the cells in the area. It helps essential oils, generally speaking, of course. Of course, there's specific ones, but I'm just going to use a blanket term right now. So essential oils, like sandalwood or lavender, frankincense, studies show that they're able to prevent the cells from going down an abnormal pathway, which is really exciting. And they also do things like prevent the enzyme. There's some enzymes, I generally think of enzymes as a positive thing, but there are some enzymes that are destructive to collagen and elastin. And essential oils inhibit those enzymes from destroying the collagen and elastin. So, and that's just like, one tiny thing that they do.
Right.
So we can see how these are just such beautiful active ingredients to take care of our skin or to try and work on something like melasma, because you're not going to get side effects. You're only going to, really help the skin in that area. Yeah.
And so is that most of the essential oil stuff, is that a topical with some sort of a carrier, or is it?
Well, sometimes. So we make these little tiny spot treatments called the doodabs. We have a little doodab family. There's bee doodab, zippity doodab, jewel dab, and doodab for all the different things. And so that's topical. And then you can apply something like one of our serums, which are really rich, and to prevent the other things too, like formation of scars, keloids, that kind of thing. They just work on the skin. Yes, you can do that topically, and of course internally there's a whole world of things that we can do.
World, yeah. So on the it's interesting to me. I mean, I'm no fan of polyunsaturated fats except for the good ones, that come in fish for the most part, in fresh fish.
Yes.
I mean, it just the I don't know, the skewed ratio of omega-6 to 3 that we all run around with is definitely problematic in a lot of ways. And then of course, just the straight up oxidation and the rancid fats that you're mentioning, which frankly, even when you try to avoid, they get snuck in all sorts of places. So that stuff's just wreaking havoc, across the board is kind of my take on it. And so internally, right? And I think our listeners are pretty familiar with that. That's certainly a hill that we preach from routinely. But I wonder about the fats and some of these carriers that might be in cosmetics or lotions or any of that. Do you find that there's, a problem with sort of transdermal polyunsaturated fat problems?
Oh, absolutely. It's a big issue because they're all rancid. So they're really challenging, whether it's internally or applied topically. Even with natural oils, like, something like hemp seed, generally I generally don't say, make cosmetics with it, because by the time, it could often be rancid, and you don't want to apply rancid oils to the skin either. But sure, like eat the fresh hemp seed oil, right? And then, bring that into your body that way. So the application of rancid oils is not good, especially, there's so many things they do to just Yeah, even jojoba, like we use jojoba, but if a big brand was using jojoba, I mean, we'd be a completely different creature because it would have been not organic, and then it would have been winterized, deodorized, which are such crazy processes. You know, taking out all the full spectrum of all the juicy things that it's going to be doing, you know, that you want to be doing to your skin. So you don't want to be applying, you know, soy or the 50 derivatives of petroleum oil to your skin. And even natural stuff. You don't really want to be working with almond oil, peach kernel, or grapeseed oil. You know, they're just rancid. Yeah.
I've got to imagine that in the, so in the beauty space, right? Like, so, I mean, I'm familiar with kind of what's regulated and what's not regulated when it comes to supplements, right? Things that you would take, but I'm not even remotely familiar with how it works kind of in the cosmetic space, which I'm guessing is what this stuff would fall into. But even in the food and sort of supplement realm, it's so hard to know, like, unless you literally know your farmer, for lack of a better term, like you could very much be getting a bottle of canola oil when you think you're buying extra virgin olive oil. And so I've got to imagine that even like you may not even be able to do enough due diligence to understand what's actually coming in your cosmetics, right? And I mean, and I assume that this is...
I'm like, I can, but yeah, like a normal person for sure.
Yeah, totally, right? So...
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So the person who's
labels that seem purely natural, you know what I mean? And I'll see it, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that reads well. And then you inhale it, and there's definitely quality issues, and maybe not even a real essential oil being used. Like it could be not real lavender, and the cosmetic company may not know, B, care.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like this idea of farm to table. It's kind of like farm to face or farm to cosmetics, right?
That's a good one.
Make a t-shirt.
Right, exactly. Because but it really is, right? Because I mean, it's the same kind of thing when they're big conglomerates or they're just kind of big companies, it's hard to really ascertain what kind of ingredients you're getting and where they're from and all that good stuff. And it's why I want to say concoctions is what I want to keep saying. But I guess they are concoctions are so beautiful because you are getting basically this kind of farm to face experience. So maybe you could tell a little bit more to the listeners about your products and your line.
Yeah, well, I feel like sourcing the raw materials, you know, kind of existed for me before I even had a company. And it was always just such a great pleasure, especially when so much of what I work with was really hard to find before. You know what I mean? Like just things that we are very common now, like bergamot and frankincense and all that. It was a little more rare back then. But back then it was really a great journey too, to discover the nuances and the quality differences within the realm too, you know, where I was starting to get in my own samples from distillers and farmers. And it was like, even if it was something simple like tea tree, it would just like blow the health food store bottle out of the water, you know, and it was just like, and then then it just became like a whole fine wine thing. And so it's been fun. And I've had so many of my relationships with our different producers and distillers for decades and for a couple of decades. And so that's really just such a pleasurable part of like what goes into each product is this, you know, the story of the oils and the beautiful distillers that really craft such beautiful extracts. And each one is like an art in its distillation and its creation. And then I get to bring those together and then create, you know, new things from that artistry. And, you know, our formulas are so well loved, but I also feel like, or, you know, people are like, wow, you're really good. But I'm like, really, I just feel like when I'm working with such beautiful, pure ingredients, it's like, I don't even have to be that smart, you know. They do all the
work. But it's so true, though. I mean, because we experience that with food, right? It's like when you have, if you have the opportunity, of course, to grow your own stuff or go to a local farmer's market or whatever, it's just better. You know, you're like, what do you guys eat every day? Oh, well, we really like chicken and we really like salad. You know, so we eat chicken and salad. How can you eat a salad every single day? You're like, you don't understand. When you've got the right ingredients, a salad is just an amazing thing. It's like everything about it is different. The notes, the flavors, everything is just completely different. And so I've got to imagine that it's that times 100 when it comes to, dealing with things, especially that are like specifically aromatic, right?
Oh yeah, totally. And then even within the purity, then there's the nuances from season to season, which, can be challenging. But it's fun. It's a fun challenge. But that's also why we'll just call it like commercial beauty. They want to stamp out, the diversity and the nature's nuances because they need to have, same
consistent
dead,
product,
lifeless
right?
Consistency.
Right. And also shelf life that is, 2 to 3 years, and it could sit in some warehouse.
It's like most things we make have at least 2 to 3 years of easy stability because of the quality. And
awesome.
When you're using jojoba oil, which is like the botanical oil on the planet that is even the most synchronistic with our sebum. So A, it's got that going for it. And B, if stored properly, it can last for 100 years.
Wow.
But most people don't use it because it's one of the most expensive of the carrier oils. So you've got that going on, and then you're using beautiful essential oils. And if you architect with those properly, they're all antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral to varying degrees. Not to mention they're adding just decadent beauty and active efficiency for skin and cellular. So they're just such a great palette.
Yeah, I love it. It's, I've been making my own body butter for years, and it's always a thing where it's like, trying to figure out the sourcing is a real thing. It's really tricky. And, you might think you've found a good source, and then you get it and you're like you were saying, it reads well, but then it shows up and you're like, I don't know, this doesn't seem right. It doesn't even seem like what I ordered, to be honest.
Totally. But even something like a body butter, you've got coconut oil, cacao butter, hopefully, maybe some jojoba or olive oil. And that's actually going to be stable for 2 or 3 years if stored properly. And then, maybe 2 years. Then you add some essential oils and it will be even better.
Yeah. No, and that's pretty much what I use. I use, sometimes I throw a little rose hip in there.
A little beef tallow.
Sometimes a little beef tallow, depending on what's going on. Cocoa butter. I don't know. I actually have a few different that I switch through, but it was tricky at first to find the sources and to find things that really, that I felt really made a quality product.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you had so much fun making it.
I did. Yeah. And all the different essential oils. And and I think that's the thing too, is that I think people are intimidated by this stuff. They think that it's so far out of their, the possibility. And it's kind of like, learning to eat well or learning to cook for yourself. It's like, you just start simply, and I think that's where I started. Just started with a couple of things. Like my body butter was the one that I was like, okay, I slather this on my body every single day. It should be high quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And the book, I also include a lot of recipes too, like even one for your own mascara.
Oh, awesome. Oh, I love that. I didn't see that one, the mascara. That's awesome. So I do want to talk about the holistic dental care though, because obviously I think that is such an important topic. Can you just kind of give us an overview of what that even is and kind of distinguish what it is from traditional dental care?
Yeah. I'm trying to, how do I say this without like a whole hour?
Yeah.
So I guess, we're at a time when, there's more, we've never had more dental issues than, we're at epic proportions. We've got 98% of the North American population with bleeding, receding gums. We've got more cavities, more root canals, more extractions than ever before. And at the same time, we seem to have all these options. You walk down a dental aisle, there's like thousands of options. But we also haven't got something right. And what we also now know about the microbiome, we need to take that into consideration, and we need to understand how the teeth are connected to the rest of the body. Because, as we've done so well in Western health, is we've separated so much of the body from itself, I think we're still recovering from that mind-body separation of Descartes. So the teeth are connected to the body. And I don't know about y'all, but when I was growing up, I felt like the teeth are developed. They seem like kind of like stones in the teeth. You know what I mean? And like if a cavity happened, then like that was, you just had to fix it. I didn't learn that the teeth were connected to the body, that they were alive, that they could be improved upon, that there is a chance that you can halt or even reverse cavities given the right, tools, conditions, and nutrients. And I think that's like really good for people to know. So I found that there was a gap in education and books or, knowledge on like, what do we as people with teeth do? What do we need to do on a daily basis so that when we do go to the dentist, that we're having, a better time of it. And we're not just like waiting all year to have them properly cleaned by the dentist, once a year. So, and then when you really go into it, we're thankful for modern dentistry, but there's also a few places where we've kind of gone off the rails. And now we know that many procedures that are standard do connect to health issues, later in life, or can disrupt the balance of the microbiome in the mouth. And just on a daily basis, we're really disrupting the mouse microbiome. But it's the mouse microbiome that would actually, keeps things in check and prevents the pathogens that cause that cause cavities.
Disease.
So there is beneficial bacteria in our mouths too, but our modern dental practices, from the sodium lauryl sulfate toothpaste, the toothpaste with triclosan, the mouthwashes with harsh alcohols, all of that stuff is really messing with the mouse microbiome, and we're like missing microbes, we're mutating microbes, and that's the stuff that's, supposed to keep our mouths healthy. So there's a lot to undo there, and there's a lot of procedures that we need to rethink or go to different options.
Yeah, man, I've always sort of intuitively thought that the mouthwashes were just terrible. You know what I mean? And I think it was Listerine, like Listerine Winter Mint or something like that I tried one time. And it just felt like pouring gasoline in my mouth, Yeah. And I was like, this cannot be like right. It's like, this just can't be right to have something this strong that you're literally swishing around. And I mean, of course it's, as you've written about and are speaking about, that it's sort of known that that's definitely causing some problems. But I actually was just reading, I read the headline or like the title of an article maybe a day before yesterday or something that was making a direct correlation between, regular mouthwash use and the breakdown of some specific digestive enzyme. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they were showing that basically the more mouthwash you use, the more or the less efficient you are at actually digesting food. And you're like, it makes sense. This whole process starts with saliva, and it all starts in the mouth and breaking things down, and if you've got this super sterile, kind of lab environment that your mouth is, it's just, you're missing some parts.
Totally. And I didn't know about that study. That it totally makes sense. A lot of things can disrupt, the digestive enzymes, like different chemicals. But one thing I did write about in my book was that normal mouthwash is causing over 36,000 cases of oral cancer a year.
Oh, wow.
But it's still, and that's like an older stat, and it's still around.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So that's sort of like this germ warfare theory that we've kind of, from the 40s, where it was just this scorched earth policy, whether it was agriculture, farming practices, or how we were going to take care of our bodies. Right. And we had no concept of the microbiome. And now we know that our bacteria is like, just as abundant as the cells in our body. So we're basically hosts to a bacterial banquet. And we've got to be good hosts to the friendly bacteria so that they can manage the pathogens. So I like to think of it sort of like an 80-20 rule.
Right. Yeah. And then super selective. I mean, and that's the thing that we're seeing with the gut is that, it's everybody's is a little bit different, you know, and you got to have the right amounts of the right things in there, you know, and so something that that has been kind of, you know, talked about quite a bit in the circles that I run in, which this should say something about me maybe, but is the problems with potential oral hygiene issues and chronic inflammation and the potential for cardiovascular disease that's linked to that, which of course is real. You know, I mean, this is a thing. People that have some sort of chronic, whether it's gingivitis or, you know, any one of these sort of mouth, you know, inflammation things going on, it can be the beginning of this cascade that we know is pretty tightly correlated with ischemic heart disease. Mm-hmm. And so again, the solution that normally comes up is just what you said, this scorched earth policy. It's like, okay, well, when we've got to knock this inflammation out, we've got to get this stuff out of here. But it seems to me that is, you know, as a first step, it just completely disarms your natural defenses. And so like once you go down that path, then you're opening the door for more and more quote unquote bad, you know, bacteria growth, right? And it's not something that we really have yet, I don't think, is a like a probiotic regimen for your mouth, right?
We
so like
do.
once we do. Oh,
well,
good.
We do.
Is it dirt? Is it just dirt?
No, I mean, it's like I have some articles about it. And I talk about it in the book. So we can definitely work with probiotics for that. And I love the way you put it, that a lot of our practices are disarming. You know, they are.
Yeah.
It's disarming the whole system. So, and dentists are even using sort of different probiotic systems in their work. So after a cleaning for the root planning and scaling, a lot of dentists, not a lot, but some, I just laugh because it's not like you can find this at every dentist.
Right.
But they're starting to do, they're injecting like probiotics along the gum line. And I don't mean like, it's not injecting, but sort of like spraying and squirting. So we have a blunt tipped syringe that we've been selling for years to help, you know, clean out and heal the receding gums. You can bring your gum pockets back down. We want to think of our gums around that place where the gum and tooth join is so precious. We've got to take care of it. We need like nice turtlenecks around our teeth. We don't want them to get like a cowl neck, because that's when, you know, the enamel's different in that area. Like, and so, you know, you can be very susceptible to cavities along the gum line and that kind of thing. But this blunt, you can just mix up probiotics with some of the dental serum, or a little hydrogen peroxide diluted water, or some salt water, or some water with baking soda. Put that in a syringe, and then you can, with the probiotics, and then you can do that along the gum line. I also have a recipe for something I call tooth butter cups, which is kind of like oil pulling. But you can make these little like cubes, like little tiny sugar cubes, but not sugar. And then you can put, you know, oils in there, essential oils like tea tree, peppermint. You can put a probiotic in there, charcoal, and then you can also use those for your swishing. So there's some really fun ways to work with probiotics. And of course, you know, they're inventing lozenges and different things, but there's always these other weird ingredients with it. And really, you know, you can pop open a probiotic capsule, throw it in some coconut oil, and do oil pulling just like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there you go.
A lot of stuff that can be had.
So I'm curious, like, what your daily dental routine looks like.
Well, I did. People wanted to know. And so I wrote these 8 steps out, actually about 10 years ago. And that will turn anybody's mouth around. And it's a really good thing to do, you know, if you haven't been to the dentist in a while. And so if you're, you know, going to go, I would do this for about 3 months in advance, and then you'll have a shorter, happier appointment. Or a lot of people, you know, can't get to the dentist right now. So it's really good to do those 8 steps. We have it on our website. We have an article about it. It's in the books, and anybody can also just call or email us. We do free consultations. We're happy to, you know, you can throw your dental things at us. We can't always answer, but we feel like we can always send people on a good path to other resources if it's needed, and that kind of thing. Because it's a complex thing, and pretty much everybody right now in this modern world needs to kind of, you know, revive and refresh their oral care regime.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That's yeah. I'm putting myself firmly in that. So I'm going to Google this thing up and get squared away on it, because
we all need, even if you've been doing a good job, I think you can easily get bored. This is something, we've been doing for many years.
Yeah,
you got to get that stuff squared away. So I want to shift gears one more time, because before we went live, we were talking about this amazing place that you live at, or on, and or in and around.
Yes.
And so there's something that, when we moved to Venice, I guess it was almost 11 years ago. And, it was the first time that either Vanessa or I had really lived in a big city. We grew up in Northern California in relatively small places.
Sweet.
And there was really something about being in the city that I felt was just not really good for me. I loved being there. And it's like, frankly, still one of my favorite places that I've ever lived. But there was something that felt like low grade toxic just about it in general, And so I'm wondering, given the place that you live seems the exact opposite of that. And so I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit to anything that you might know about, how the environmental toxins of a city, or stress, or noise pollution, or all of that stuff affects your skin and aging, and just anything else that you might know about that. Cause I just feel like you might be somebody that's got a wealth of information around that topic.
Well, I think that those, all those things can affect people. And I feel like everybody's constitution's a bit different. So, what might be whacking out one person in the city might not, other people might be fine. So, I think we all come to it with different constitutions. But yeah, that's why I had to leave the city. For all of the above, I needed quiet and pure air and pure water. It was, just turning, when we got to our land, just to turn on the tap, I was like, oh my God, we're like the wealthiest people on the planet. We can turn on our tap and drink it. It just seemed like a miracle. So yeah, I think depending on the person, sometimes you have to maybe work a bit harder in the city, to balance some of the toxins that are coming your way. Through water systems and all that kind of stuff. But there is a lot to mitigate.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thought is that it can be done, right? And so there's some amount of potions and serums and, and things like topical stuff for your skin. And then of course, just, dialing your diet in as best as possible from a, just an overall anti-inflammatory kind of situation.
Yeah, well, I feel like too, it's hard to control, as we kind of think, here's our bodies, and then sort of there's the home, and then there's outside the home. So obviously the farther away you move from your body, the harder it is to control. Air quality in a city, you're not going to be able to do much. In your home, you can start making good choices, about, what's purifying your air, how are you cleaning your home, what kind of fabrics and materials are you bringing to the home? Because there's a lot of toxins found in dust, for example. If you test your home dust, you could get a lot of information, about what's off-gassing from your furniture and that kind of stuff. And then there's obviously food, what we're putting in our body. And I think for self-care and, hygiene and all that, it's like, if we're in the city, we can be making choices right there about our own ecosystem and our own environment, which are going to help. But, if you're slathering on the petroleum-based lotions and rinsing with that Listerine, it's just going to make it, I think, more of an uphill battle at some point. Right. And really why I wrote, even though the books are complex and in depth and detailed, it's kind of like providing all that information so that we can actually have less effort and less thought in our care of ourselves, so that we can kind of step out of the way and allow the body, the design of the body and the design of our body with it interacting with the elements, that can really take care of us.
I love that. It's just really beautiful. And I'm curious if, kind of pinging back to the dental care, do you find that there is more holistic dentistry offered? There's actually dentists who are working under that title?
Yes.
Is that growing?
Growing and growing. Because I can't remember when I wrote my book now, but I think I got the self-published one out around 2009. And the growth that I've seen in this past decade is amazing. Like we have so many more options to tell people, more resources. But I also did write an article, and I do have a part in the holistic dentistry book that talks about like questions to ask prospective dentists, because even under the holistic name, you could still find I could still be like, yeah, no. So,
not quite.
I feel, so there's like some really good questions in there. I feel like if the dental practice does root canals at all, that's not your dentist. Because once a dentist knows the real reality behind a root canal, they can't do them. They just can't, because they know too much.
Right.
There's no going back.
Yeah, there's no going back.
Right. You took the red pill.
It's so interesting as we, just sort of as a species get better and better at understanding more and more. And I think the internet has helped a lot to just sort of make incredible information like this available, and it's got to just be like such a thing for some professions now, like dentistry being one of them, right? Where now somebody calls, they're like, well, I'd like to make an appointment. However, I'd like to speak with the dentist for about 15 minutes first, because I have 8 questions that I would like to answer. You know what I mean? Everybody's just getting vetted, and these people are like, criminy, here we go again, And at restaurants, it's like, what was the chicken's name?
Right.
Like, how far down the line do we go with this? But it's great. It's such this is ultimately how this stuff works, is that we get a more educated consumer that just drives the whole ship in the right direction.
Yeah, we're informed, and we want our, medical professionals, we want to work in partnership with them.
Absolutely.
We know our bodies, and those days of like, uninformed, whatever, are fading.
No, it's so true. Well, it's weird. It seems like it's almost doubling down on both sides. The people who want to stay blind are like really putting the blinders on, and the people who are not are just like, they're streaking through the neighborhoods going like, don't wear clothes. Anyway, this has been so awesome, and I really appreciate your contribution to this conversation, because and not just the conversation on the podcast, but the larger conversation, because it really is giving people the power to take their own health, their own care, their own beauty into their own hands, and really, not feel like this is just some magic potion that they'll never get their hands on. Like these are things that we can really do to change the reality of our well-being, our real well-being. So it's been so awesome diving into your books and speaking with you. Please tell people where they can find you, especially the website and all of the things that you reference, and also social media, if we can follow you there.
Oh, sure. Well, the books are available wherever books are sold, including our website, which is livinglibations.com. And there you will find a beautiful meadow of many creations and a lot of articles and resources. And you can email us for any question, and also to set up consults. And, we're regular social media channels like Facebook and stuff. Instagram's my favorite. And that's where you can see where our beautiful home is and where we make all the products and stuff.
Awesome. And is it under your name, or is
That's actually, under it's all Living Libations.
Oh, Living Libations. All okay. All
that.
under Living. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nadine. This was lovely. We appreciate your time. We've been trying to schedule this for a minute, so I will say it was worth the wait.
100%.
Yay. All right.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you.
And that is all she wrote, folks. I hope you guys got something out of that. For real. I know I say that every time at the end of one of these things, but I really mean it, so I'm a creature of habit. It's, welcome to, I don't even actually, what do I say in the beginning? It's weird. I can't say what I say in the beginning at the end, but at the end, I always say, that's all she wrote. I hope you got something out of it. But I mean it. It's sincere.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else we love to say is, if you haven't left us a 5-star review, we would so love for you to share, a little love for the podcast. Subscribe, click those 5 stars, and, write some way that maybe you did learn something. Maybe this podcast has been impactful. Yeah. We love hearing from you, and we always appreciate it.
Indeed.
Bye.